Hello everyone and welcome, finally, to me trying to complete Subnautica Below Zero without water, just like I did the first game, link in the description by the way. I know you're all excited to start, but before we do, let's set a few ground rules for the challenge, as opposed to last time where I just kinda jumped in and hoped for the best. Number 1. I will be draining all water from the world using the Ultimate Custom Water Level mod by Lee23, and setting the water level to be minus 9,999 meters, meaning it will literally be completely outside the playable area. Number 2. I will be using elements of this mod, but I am not allowed to use any other mods in combination with it. Number 3. I am allowed to use and abuse glitches or bugs in the game. And number 4. If I get completely stuck and just cannot find a way to progress further in the story, I will use console commands to get through. Now that will make the challenge a failure, but I will still try to continue the game if you guys are enjoying it. Now, with all of the rules out of the way, let's drain the water and jump into the frozen wonderland of Below Zero. Now everything started quite casually. I managed to drain all the water, I loaded into the world, and I was off. My first plan was to gather up as many resources in the starter area as possible, because honestly I didn't really know how much of it I would be able to use and when I would even be able to come back here, because traversing this world without water is quite complicated. I picked up a bunch of nutrient blocks and flares, and slowly but surely made my way to the starter area. I somehow managed to get myself stuck on this rock. No clue how that happened. But after a bit of deliberating and back and forth, I realized the only way down was to take this big drop, so I did it, and thank goodness Robin has some really strong ankles. Oh, and there's some bladderfish down here. Now, as I made my way to the pod gathering resources, it might be a good time to explore how the temperature will work with this mod. Now, you might notice on the bottom left that occasionally the temperature seems to go back up. There's a neat feature in this mod, which makes it so that when you're in a cave, quote unquote, your temperature should regenerate. Now the way the mod works, technically anytime there is a surface above your head at a reasonable height, your temperature will start going up. Now I will be keeping this on because without it the game is pretty much impossible, and you'll see that even with it I still ended up freezing it quite a few times. But eventually I managed to make my way all the way to the drop pod. Inside I used some of the resources I collected on the way to craft some food and water, and then I figured the first thing I should probably get is a knife. Now to get a knife, you need to go to a creepvine forest and get some creepvine seed clusters, and this was a problem. First of all, the weather of Sector 0 is much less than desirable, meaning I could never stay exposed for too long without a roof over my head, or I would simply die. Second thing, as I'm sure you know, creepvine seed clusters don't really grow close to the ground. I got to the forest, but then had to spend a lot of time running around trying to figure out if there is any way I could possibly reach one of these clusters. And let me tell you, the devs did not make this one easy. I found one which I thought I had a really good shot at. I tried jumping at it a few times, but unfortunately just could not get high enough. After more time than I'd like to admit, and quite a few broken ankles I assume, I finally found this. It was a bit of a cliffside that led right to a creepvine seed cluster, so bracing myself I saved the game and launched off. Success! Now at this point my health was very low, but at least I had managed to get some clusters, so it was time to make a knife. The journey back was perilous, of course, but before long, I had me a trusty cutter. Now I jumped back outside, but now I realized it was night. And the thing about it being night and snowing is that you absolutely cannot see anything. So I figured it might be a good idea to craft a flashlight. Now getting the ribbon plant for this was actually not as difficult as I thought it would be. It turns out Robin is actually pretty good at walking up steep hills, probably because this game has so much more surface gameplay than the first game. But anyways, before long, I had myself a flashlight. Now the real question that came now was, what's next? But as the hoopfish smartly reminded me,
it's the middle of the night, we can't really do anything.
So I went back into the drop pod and just waited. Now at this point I realized I would be taking quite a bit of impact damage throughout this run, and because the drop pod doesn't generate medkits by its own, I would need some fiber mesh. Now with my newly acquired knife this wasn't a big deal, so I just gathered some, and before long I was able to heal up. Now I'm not gonna lie, I was feeling pretty good about things now, and so in thinking what I should do next, I thought back to the original Subnautica run. In that one, the by far most useful piece of tech was the propulsion cannon. Combining that with an air bladder meant I could fly pretty much anywhere and get pretty much out of any situation. But if you know anything about Below Zero, you can probably already sensed the problem. For one, flying with an air bladder is no longer possible in Subnautica Below Zero. And two, parts for this thing are only found in sea monkey nests in caves underground. Now the problem with these caves is that there's practically no way to get back out of them after you fall down. Here I found one, jumped in, only to find it contained pieces of the mobile vehicle bay and no way back out. Now I reloaded the save file and got to search for more caves. I fell down this one only to realize it's actually the exact same one I had just been in. Genius. And then I found the big boy. Now this is where the major cave system of the area starts, but already going down, I realized that there is a chance I might not be able to get back out. Traversing this area was certainly not easy. It is very vertical and filled with many routes that are normally easy to swim around, but not exactly to walk around. Inside I found some laser cutter fragments, and way more unscalable walls than I would like to admit. Now at this point, I was fairly certain I was not going to be able to get out. My only hope was that at some place this cave system would connect to the deep twisty bridges, and I would maybe then be able to find a way to climb out that way. Still, with that said, at this point I didn't even have any pieces of the propulsion cannon, so this whole adventure might turn out to be a waste of time. As I descended even deeper, that actually became something I used to calm myself down. You know, thinking like, well, this cave doesn't have any fragments anyway, so I'll just be able to reload the save and there's gonna be no need to come back down here. And that's when I saw it. Oh boy. At the very bottom of this cave, deep underground, I found monkey nests with pieces of the propulsion cannon. Now this was a real problem, because I pretty much knew at this point that there is no way I'm getting out of here on my feet. I tried searching around for quite some time and I just could not find any possible way. All the exits were way too vertical to be able to climb out of. I'm not gonna lie to you, at this point I was panicking a little bit on the inside. The propulsion cannon is such an important piece of the journey, and if I wasn't gonna be able to get one, would this run even be possible? And just when I thought all hope was lost, an idea struck. One just crazy enough to the point that it might work. And for this idea, I would need a habitat builder. So I reloaded a save file and decided to go look for one. Now I knew for a fact that you can find a habitat builder on the Delta Island. The problem is, the Delta Island is quite far away. So, a perilous journey began. Now to tell you a bit about traversing this world, it's difficult. Robin is pretty good at walking up steep slopes, but she's a terrible jumper. Every time you jump, it feels like she's jumping 10 centimeters up. And plus, the further you get into the map, the harder it is to find places where you can comfortably have something above your head so that you don't freeze. At first, I had some pretty good luck navigating the twisty bridges. I was sticking close to the right side with some icebergs so I would have some head coverage, and I was feeling pretty good about myself. Man, this is such a cool area. Honestly, even without water. It was then though, when a little overconfidence would be the end of my trip. That's right, I slipped and fell down to my death. No, that's alright, no, I wasn't doing anything important, that's fine, I don't mind wasting another 15-20 minutes. Right, so I got back there, but at this point the weather was so bad I literally could not see where I was going. This is another problem of this challenge. The weather can be so unpredictable that you can literally freeze to death in like 30 seconds if you're not careful. On the second try I managed to navigate the twisty bridges successfully, and after what was probably about 15 minutes of time, and a few mobile vehicle bay fragments scanned, I made my way to the thermal spires of the island, and promptly froze to death. Right, so anyway, I got to the thermal spires, but the weather was too cloudy and foggy for me to see anything, and on top of that, it was getting night, so I just found a cozy place and waited. When morning struck, I was able to get back on my way, and despite quite a few uncomfortable chasms, which I only just now realized were down there, I eventually finally managed to climb my way to the island. Now this was absolutely crazy, because for once I was actually in an area that was meant to be traversed on foot. I walked through collecting some resources, had a lovely encounter with an unidentified woman, finally reaching Delta Outpost, and getting my well-deserved habitat builder. Nice. Now the journey back was rough. Here, why don't you enjoy a little bit of it with some relaxing music in the background? Oh, I hate cold weather. But I was soon at my base and ready to build the habitat builder. Or at least I would have been if I had the computer chip. Now the thing is, The computer chip isn't even unlocked as a blueprint at the start, so first I had to craft the oxygen tank, and only then did I see the challenge that this would pose. The freaking table coral. Look, I'm not exaggerating when I say I spent a half hour walking around the freaking deep, twisty bridges, trying to find a table coral that wasn't all the way at the bottom where I wouldn't be able to get back up. Miraculously, at the end, I managed to find some, so of course I took as many as I could carry because I really did not want to go through this again. And I thankfully already had some gold from my trip to the island, so finally, returning back, I was able to craft the habitat builder. Now here is where I can tell you my crazy plan. Let's draw it out, shall we? My plan is to grab the habitat builder with enough resources and travel all the way down into the deep cave where I can find and scan the fragments. Then I will use the handy habitat builder with an optimal blueprint to build my way back up, deconstructing things as I go so that I still have enough materials. Now I know this sounds crazy, but as far as I'm aware right now, this is probably the only way to get the propulsion cannon. Will I be able to do it? Will I be able to get out of there and actually continue on with the game? Or is this the point where we get stuck? Well, you guys are gonna have to find out in the next episode. Yes, we are bringing the cliffhangers back, but you know what? I'm confident and I'm pretty sure we can do it, so it shouldn't be a big one. In the meanwhile, I really hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, maybe consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. All of those would be very much appreciated. With all that, I'm gonna wish you all a beautiful rest of today, and I'll see you in whatever next video I make. Bye bye.